everybody. I'm coming to you today with a sketching video and I wanted to try these new pens. They are the Zebra Z Grip Smooth. I'm on the hunt for the perfect sketching pen. I want it to be easy to find, easy to source, affordable, and have a nice, reliable ink flow. I use fine liners at the moment rather than ballpoint pens, but fine liners just don't last very long and they're quite expensive, and I didn't need anything that was too high end just for using in a sketchbook, so I thought I would give these a try. So a New Year's resolution that I made this year was to build a daily sketching habit, and I started this before Christmas so that the pressure was off a little bit, so I'd have the chance to be sort of halfway to the finish line with building the habit before the new year started, because Christmas came and we were so busy. I didn't do any sketching over the sort of 5-day Christmas period where we were busy visiting family, driving up and down the county. It was such a busy time. I had to drop it off for a few days, but I managed to pick it straight back up. So I've been sketching every morning. Last year I got really into journaling, so I'll wake up in the morning, I make a coffee, I sit down at my desk and I write about 3 pages every day in my journal. And especially in the second half of the year, I managed to journal every day, 3 pages every day at least, and I filled a journal in 7 weeks, which just blew my mind that I was able to complete a full book, like write my own book in 7 weeks. So I really want to do that this year with sketching. So that's my first resolution this year. And the second one is that I want to make more personal artwork this year. I want to draw things that are more personal to me and be able to use my own references. So that's why I'm drawing what I'm drawing today. If you're not familiar with the very cheeky girl that's on the screen at the moment, this is my Labrador, Hope. She's a golden Labrador and she's nearly 2. She's very naughty, very funny, and we spend all day together. So I have many photos of her. Every day I have many photos of her and videos of her doing stupid things and hilarious things. So I've got many pictures of her from lots of different angles and from with her in all sorts of different poses and different expressions. So because I was wanting to do studies on the day that I did these sketches, Hope was the perfect model. So I drew 7 sketches of Hope this day, and it was just the perfect place to start because I wanted to ease myself into the resolution and not make it difficult for myself for my first go and the first video that I make of the year. And I thought I would try a new pen, so that's why I'm using this pen at the moment. So starting off with the problems that I had with this pen, bearing in mind it is the very first time that I used it. You saw me open the packet. I'm not sure if you can see it at the moment, but it does do that later on in the video. It will, every now and then, there'll be a random blob of ink that will just appear at the end of the pen and sort of transfer itself onto the page. So that's a little bit of a problem when you're drawing, because I really need the ink flow to be reliable. Now, when I was writing the notes for this video, I used the very same pen, and I noticed that the ink flow was very reliable when I was writing, So there might be a difference in writing and drawing, because obviously this pen was made to write with rather than draw with. So the ink flow is probably perfect for like consistently writing at a certain speed. But when I'm drawing, there's a lot of hesitation that goes on, which will probably let the nib dry up quite quickly. And because it does that, it makes the ink flow a little bit unreliable. So sometimes it's a little bit too dry, and then other times some ink will build up on the nib, which will deposit onto the page, and it stays wet for quite a long time. So I did actually smudge a few times on this page, which was a bit disappointing. It's not the biggest problem in the world, but if it was on a final piece, that would obviously be a problem. So the pens that I've been using over the past few years when I'm doing work like this, I would usually use the Sakura, I think that's what it's called, Sakura Micron fine liners, and they're great, but they just don't last very long. I've used them a couple of times for Inktober, and the last time that I did Inktober, I was working on a few A4 sized pieces, and one pen would barely last me for one of those, like quite detailed drawings. So I would get through quite a lot of those, and they're quite expensive. For one of those pens, a Sakura fine liner, that would cost about the same as 5 of these pens, and these have got a really big ink cartridge. So I know that this one will last a long time, and I think I'm going to have to say no to fine liners for this type of artwork and for these types of sketches. What I really want from a pen for sketching is for it to last a long time and not have to keep repurchasing the same pen over and over again. And I don't want it to be very smudgy. So I'm not very good at working, as you can see from the video, because I started at the opposite end for some reason. I'm not very good at working left to right, because for this I would have had to work from the left hand side of the page and the left hand side of the image, and just gradually move towards the right to try and eradicate the any smudging. And I worked from right to left and then right to left again, so I did get some smudging. So I'm not very good at that, so that's something that I need to pay attention to. And I want to be able to create different line weights and possibly some more interesting lines. So if you've got any pen recommendations, any sketching pen recommendations, I'd really love to know. It doesn't have to be a black pen. It doesn't have to be a ballpoint pen. It can still be a fine liner pen. I'm open to your suggestions. And I think this week I'm possibly going to buy another pen to try. So if you have any suggestions, please do let me know, because I love pens and I'd love to find the best pen, so that I can go into the year with the best pen for all of the sketches that I want to make. So the good thing that I found about these pens, probably the best thing about these pens, is how affordable they are. I think they were like £2.50 for a pack of 5, which biros don't tend to be very expensive, but this one is a little bit chunkier. It's got a nice rubber grippy thing at the bottom, so it's very comfortable to hold, really affordable, and the ink in it is nice. When you build it up, like around Hope's eyes that you can see now, it does get really black, and it's quite a wet pen, so quite a lot of ink comes out when you need it to, and you are able to create different line weights which is very useful. So you'll see now I'm going over the initial sketch that I did at the start. I just kept the lines really light and really sketchy, and then going in and outlining it and making certain lines heavier. You are able to get that with a biro. And you could use any sort of biro for this. It doesn't have to be this one. I just thought that this would be a nice one to try because the name of the pen is Smooth. And that's what I want. I want smooth lines. If you can hear any commotion in the background, that is Hope live. And this is what she's like all the time. She's absolutely mental. She never shuts up. And at the moment, she is spinning around in circles, throwing a toy around in her mouth. You're lucky that she's not barking, because this is the third time that I'm filming the voiceover for this video. And one of the reasons for that is that Hope keeps barking through it. Do any of you have naughty puppies like this? So another New Year's resolution for this year is that I want to make a wider range of products for my shop. So last year I had the shop open here and there, and I'd really like to be able to have it open, like open it once and just leave it open for the rest of the year. So last year I was selling prints at the beginning of the year, and I lost all of the files for them. I've still got the originals, so I could probably make them again, but I lost all of the files, all of the different sizes, all of the colour edits that I'd done. So when I realised that, I shut the shop and was working on other things, was working on commissions, and then I opened the shop again in November for some Christmas commissions. So there was only one product available in the shop for that amount of time, running up until Christmas. I shut the shop on the 23rd of December, and this year I'd really like to have a small range of products at slightly different price points, things that are a little bit smaller to post, because posting framed artwork is quite expensive. So making some smaller things that are a little bit more affordable, but a little bit more unique and detailed. I've got a lot of ideas, but we're only a week into the year so far, so I haven't made much headway with making the first product, but I'm in the sketching phase, so there's lots and lots of sketching going on at the moment. Now, this drawing that I'm working on now was quite a tricky one, because I could feel that the pen was drying up quite a lot, and it was also getting to the night time, like the nighttime part of the day. You can probably tell by the light, like the reflection on the eye from my desk lamp. And I felt like at the beginning of the drawing session I was much better. So I'm about four hours, I think, into the sketching session at the moment, and I probably needed to take a break, which is interesting to see, especially when you watch yourself draw back. It's really strange because you can see and you can tell when you're getting tired. So I'm definitely getting tired here, and I'm getting a lot scruffier, with the lines. But the pen, if you can see just above the eye, above her right eye, there's a black blob just above the right eye, and that's what I was saying earlier about how the pen will build up some ink on the nib and then we'll just randomly deposit it sometimes. And if you look just underneath the head on the right hand side, there are a couple of smudges just there, and I think that has probably been picked up on my hand and then smudged on the paper, which isn't ideal, and that's something that I would like to avoid for further pages in the sketchbook. further in the future. So I probably wouldn't repurchase this pen. Again, not for drawing with anyway. It's fine for writing as just a casual pen, which is what it was made for. But I'm definitely going to do some research into the best pens for sketching. Just bear with me while I have a sip of my tea. It's very good. I'm drinking Pucker 3 mint or peppermint tea. Yep, 3 mint tea. And it is truly excellent. Tastes a little bit Christmassy, which is probably weird for the first week of January, but it's very delicious. I wonder if any of you watching this now have an Etsy shop. If you do have an Etsy shop, what products do you sell? Or if you purchase from Etsy shops, what kind of things do you look for on Etsy, and what kind of things have you purchased in the past? Because I'm a relatively new buyer to Etsy, and I've bought mostly gifts. Actually, a couple of things that I've bought separately, like a year apart, are like custom wooden gifts, like laser cut wooden gifts. One was a name that was custom cut out of wood for a friend's baby that was born last year, and I bought a custom wooden door hanger for Anthony for Christmas. What do you buy from Etsy? I was very, very shocked when I got my bill from Etsy a few days ago, and I remember there being a lot of controversy about Etsy maybe about a year ago when they put their prices up for the seller fees, and that is a big mistake that I made last year when I was doing the Christmas commissions. I made a very detailed, in fact I've got the book right in front of me, very detailed lists, multiple lists of all the costs of how much the postage was costing, the boxes, the ribbon, trying to break that down for how many portraits I thought I were going to sell. And one thing that I totally forgot to take into account was the cost of the Etsy seller fees. So I was very shocked when I got those. It was a lot more than I expected, and that was really stupid of me. So that is another New Year's resolution actually for this year, is to be better at planning and be better with my accounts. And I'm wondering whether to stay on Etsy or not. It's something that I need to really look into, because that were a bad surprise. Not a great Christmas present. So this is the last of the sketches that I'm doing now. And just before I got to this point, I was quite annoyed with myself because I realised that I hadn't left enough room for me to draw her whole body. So that was the aim for this sketchbook page, was to draw 7 versions of Hope, all in full body. But this is the only one that I didn't manage to do that with, because I didn't plan the composition right in my head. I started drawing the paw first, which I probably should have just left that out in retrospect, and squeezed her body in. But it didn't end up looking too bad. The final result was fine. But that is also something else that I'd like to work on this year, is composition. Composition is not my strongest point, especially when doing sketchbook pages like this. It is tricky for me to work out what the layout is, because I'm trying to just be quite loose with it and freestyle. So learning how to fit different shapes on the page and draw different things and have a nice composition will be something that I'm working towards this year. So I hope you enjoyed watching that. Again, if you've got any recommendations for pens, please let me know what they are. The sketchbook that I'm using at the moment is the Moleskine sketchbook. I think it's A5 version, maybe A6. It's got a navy blue cover. It's very nice. Highly recommend. Though the elastic did break on it almost as soon as I got it, but the paper's really nice. So that's a point actually about the pens. I don't think that a marker will work well on this type of paper. I think it'll bleed through. I think it'll bleed through. So I'd really like to be able to get I'd really like to be able to draw on both sides of the paper without any bleed through. So I think no markers, but if you have any experience with drawing in a Moleskine sketchbook, then maybe you will know better than me because I haven't actually had it that long. So leave me your recommendations in the comments, and hopefully I will see you next week, all being well. Thank you for watching. Bye.